Welcome back, strategic angling fans. I'm Brady Hanna. This is
JJ Patton.
And this is another episode of
Strategic Angling.
We nailed it 2 weeks in a row. So this episode we want to talk about a favorite way to catch fish of mine, maybe yours, throwing crankbaits in and around current and primarily around wing dams and shallow rock.
Yep.
So what do you know about this?
Well, I know it's working real well right now. The last 3 times I've been out, I've caught a lot of fish on crankbaits around wing dams and current breaks and rocks. It's been pretty fun. It's a fun way to catch them, smallmouth and largemouth. You also catch a lot of walleye, sometimes a pike, white bass are around. So it's a good way to get bit. I think a crankbait is arguably one of the more natural presentations that we use, depending on what you're using, but it looks more like a bait fish than probably everything else that we use to imitate bait fishing. It wiggles like one, it looks like one, and I think that's why it gets bit. Yeah,
so when we're fishing current, we kind of let the spot tell you what depth of crankbait to throw. So if you had to go, we always start shallow. Let's go deep. What's your deepest crankbait option you're throwing on a wing dam on the Mississippi River?
Probably a DT14.
Really? Okay.
Yep.
Going deep.
Yep. Not often, but and you don't typically get it down that deep in the river because the current's pulling it as you're reeling it. So you're, that may be
fighting against
getting to 10 to 12 feet at most, but and that's out on the edges of the wing dam or on the deep holes behind it, not really over the wing dam per se.
Now, you hear some guys talk about how they break down a wing dam, and this isn't really the point of this video, but since we're here, are you one who starts out at the very end of the wing dam, or are you one who goes to the inside, or are you one who just kind of does whatever? What do you try to pattern fish that way?
I almost always start on the inside. The inside. And then I'll work my way out. And I think as the flow in the river goes down, the further out they go. So low water, they move out to the middle. There's more current out there, I think. I mean, that's just... But I also think this time of year, as we're getting towards winter, they're going to be very near the deep wintering hole portion of that wing dam. And sometimes that's all the way against the bank. On some of the wing dams around here, it's right on the bank. So during the winter, I don't think they like current at all. So they'll tuck in next to the shore behind the wing dam where there's nice eddy and current break and not just a current rolling over the top.
Yeah, so you start out. Let's say you went out and we're going our way in. Are you trying to match a crankbait with basically the bare minimum depth you got to hit the top of that wing dam? Or are you one who likes to make wing dam contact, or I
like to make contact.
Okay, so then if DT14 is your deepest, what do you go to next?
I mean, and I'm going to be honest, the DT14 is not a normal.
Sure.
The first thing I reach for usually is a 6 to 8 footer, like a Little John MD or a DT6, DT8. That 6 to 8 foot, because I throw it up, and the wing dam may only be 2 feet under, but I think that one gets down before the anatomy of a wing dam. There's usually a deeper hole on the upstream side, comes up to the wing dam, and then it drops off again. And I throw past. I usually sit on the downstream side, throw past it, have it dive down, and then it climbs up the rocks and over the top and then back down again. But I'm also, if I find they're on the upstream side, I'll go around and I'll fish from the upstream side and just kind of fish that way. But I'd say a 6 to 8 footer is probably what I grab, and I think everyone's got their favorites. I think there's some that come through rocks better than others. The DTs do pretty well. The Spro Little Johns come through pretty well.
Rock
crawler comes through pretty well. The one thing I have a problem with the rock crawler is they don't seem to have a lot of shad colors that I can find. They're more crawdad colors. They're more modeled after that old wigglewort, and normally this time of year particularly, I'm throwing a shad color. Yeah,
I was just going to ask you, I'm sure the next thing I was going to ask you about is, well, if it's really shallow, we'll throw a square bill or whatever. Yeah. We'll skip that. You throw a 1.5 square bill if it's really shallow. Everybody probably can figure that out. But let's talk about color on wing dams or this time of year. I mean, I know it's a no-brainer, fishing shad, but there are variations to shad. So How are you picking your shad color?
I pick a very natural shad, lighter, white and grays, maybe a little splash of chartreuse or whatever, if the water's pretty clean. If the water's dirtier, I'll put more chartreuse, and maybe even a chartreuse blue back or chartreuse purple back. Down here on our pools, I tend to have more chartreuse on, more, maybe a white belly chartreuse side, blue back, versus up north, it would probably be more of an American shad type of variety, or natural shad.
Sorry, I'm distracting JJ. I was going to talk about my color next, and that is this golden shiner color from Lucky Craft. I don't know how I stumbled upon it, but it is my more outlandish color because it's got the silver holographic sides, and for some reason I think that I got to have some flash.
Yeah, and that's like American shad.
Yeah, very similar to American shad.
And Spro has a color like that. It's called, oh boy, I'm not going to think of it. But they have a color. It kind of has that scaly, almost that same scaly appearance that gives off a little extra flash. I think especially when it's sunny, that helps.
Yeah.
Because it does look like a bait fish. I mean, when you reel it and you see it come over the rock and it'll flash and it looks just like a shad coming over there.
Yes, sir. Rattles or no rattles?
Probably rattles down here. Dirtier water. I mean, again, it's kind of dirtier water. If it's cleaner water, higher pressure, I won't throw a rattle. But I'm not real picky about it, to be honest. You don't think
sound is as important on this one?
Not in clear water.
Not in clear water. Okay. Line. What's the lightest line you can get away with doing this?
I throw 10 pound. P-line CXX a lot, or a 10-pound shooter. If I'm going straight fluoro, I would throw a shooter, 10 to 12 pound. And that's, you're going to lose some lures. I like having a little lighter because when it does snag, you can get a little bit of stretch and pop it off. I don't usually go real heavy, but if I'm throwing a square bill, it probably doesn't matter. Then you can throw, if you're getting down and hitting the rocks anyway, you can throw 15.
If a guy had never done this before, which I'm sure our viewers maybe have or haven't, but if they only got to pick 3 crankbaits to cover a wing dam, what 3 are you going to buy? What exact 3?
1.5 square bill.
Okay. From who? Lucky Craft? I
would get a Lucky Craft, but
Lucky Craft.
Strike Kings are good. Strike Kings go a little deeper than a Lucky Craft, just FYI. They go more like 4 or 5 feet as opposed to 3 for a Lucky Craft. I'd get that Spro Little John MD and probably a DT6.
Okay. If you were asking me, I would go Lucky Craft 1.5 with a rattle. Gotta have a rattle. I just love the rattle. I would then go DT6. Got a ton of them. DT6, love it. I think for me, I can get the 1.5 deep enough to bridge the gap to a DT6. And then the last thing I would throw would be a DT10. The Rapala DT series is really hard to beat. And I know that's a perfect segue into me telling you about our first sale of the year. Matt has come together and is offering a really good sale on the DT series. So Matt carries, or K&K carries 4s to 10s, he told me. And those are all going to be on sale for $6.99.
That's a good deal.
$6.99 DT series fall blowout. So if you go down to K&K the next week, I'm going to post this video. Let's see what day is today. 26th. I'm going to post this video on Thursday the 27th. And for the next week or so, the DT series is going to be on sale at K&K.
Yeah, and one thing I would add there's a lot of crankbaits, guys, and
tons.
Sometimes I think you're better off if you only buy one type and become familiar with it. How's it come through rock? How's it come through wood? And if you find that you're having a weakness in that particular crankbait, then go buy another one. But if you buy 6 different brand 5 to 8 foot crankbaits, you're never going to really learn how that thing works. And you have to, especially around wing dams, you have to know How deep does it dive? What happens if you stop reeling? You know, can you mash it through the rocks, or when you hit the rocks, do you have to kind of let up or put your rod tip up? Or how deep does it dive on 12-pound line versus 10-pound line versus 15? You know, all those variables. I think you can complicate it a lot because I'm going to be honest. I think most of these fish are going to eat that crankbait if it's presented in the right way, regardless of whether the wobble's exactly right or the color's exactly right. I think it's more about where they are and getting the bait to them, and more importantly, getting the bait back into your boat so that you don't have to buy another one. And
this may shock you, but I don't know, overstimulation on crankbaits got me in trouble the last couple of years. I was getting wooden ones. I was doing all kinds of crazy stuff. This year, I simplified it. I said I'm only going to have 1.5s, rattling and no rattling. I'm only going to have DT6, and I'm only going to have DT10. So if you go through my whole boat, those are the only 3 crankbaits I actually have. Now, I have multiple trays of each of those, but that's because I'll snap off 5 in a row and not go up and mess up a spot. But, you know, simplify on this crankbait thing. And like JJ said, get comfortable with one before you go crazy with 5.
Yeah, you can go down a pretty deep rabbit hole. I've been down it for, and you know, and then you find yourself when you're out and you're like, well, do I throw this one, or is this color better, or this tight wiggle, or that you know, even the rattles thing it's a lot of it's confidence. So if you get one and you get confident in it, like Brady and his 1.5 there, once you have confidence in it, you're going to catch more fish on it than you would even if it's a better lure, but you don't have the confidence. You're going to do better on the one that you do.
Yeah, you know, stick a 1.5 in your hand for a whole day, and just see what you can do with it. You could literally, and a buddy of mine was telling me a story. It was funny because he actually went fishing with a guy, and the guy said, you got to have a 4-footer, 6-footer, an 8-footer, and this got to be this color. And my buddy showed up, and he said he just brought a 1.5, and he said he caught more fish and bigger fish than the guy, and that's because he believed he would. And especially in the river, fish don't get deep a lot. You know, there's going to be times when they're deep, but most of the time, if there's rock and there's a current break and you hit those rocks, you're in the strike zone. So just you know, buy lots of crankbaits from Matt, but buy lots of the same one and learn how to use it. Yeah, fishing a crankbait on a wingdam is a little bit like musical chairs. You don't know what you're going to catch. You're probably going to catch something though. Yeah. Okay, well, we're rambling. Crankbaits is a favorite of ours, even though I'm keeping it simple. It's my new motto, keep it simple with crankbaits. But I love them. I still like looking at them. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. They're expensive and fun to look at. They're fun to fish. Keep the hook sharp. You know, if you're banging off rocks, the hooks will get dull, so you're going to want to get some extra gamakatsu trebles, you know, and you can play around a little bit. You want to be careful because a lot of crankbaits and jerkbaits are weighted specifically for the hooks that are on there, and if you change that, sometimes you can change the action or change whether it sinks or floats, and so just be careful. Those G Finesse, I'm a big fan of those. Yeah, if you're gonna change a hook, or for me, I don't get super proactive, but one breaks, I just replace it with one of these. Yeah. But so sticky, so strong, and actually pretty light. These are the only hooks I've found you can put on like a jerkbait and not change the action too much. So, and they're still strong. Very strong, yeah. Okay, we're rambling. This has been another episode of K&K Strategic Angling presented by K&K. I'm Brady, this is JJ. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you next week. Thanks, guys.